Hello all, and welcome back to another Overwatch lore video. We have finally stopped playing Uprising for more than a couple of minutes, and in between sleep. So time to actually talk about the lore for this, because so far I'm really liking it. So first of all, we're getting a significant look at characters back when they were actually part of Overwatch, which strangely we have not seen a lot of. On top of that, we're also getting some more clarification about the Overwatch timeline, which has always been sort of fluid and weird and hard to quantify, but now we know for sure Uprising took place 7 years before the current time, which is somewhere around Recall. Overwatch was likely shut down probably within a year, maybe even directly as a result of this, seeing as the whole idea behind what's going on in Uprising is Null Sector, an extremist group of Omnic terrorists, have taken over a subsection of London. Specifically, one that was basically blessed by the Shambali monks, the Omnic monks that are basically pushing this whole idea that everyone has a soul because they have the capability of thinking and believing and all that sort of stuff. It's the people who Zenyatta comes from, though he actually left them because he felt like they were too focused on the fame it was getting them, basically. But Mondata, the head of them, blessed this dig site. That's actually him digging with the shovel right there. He, along with everyone who lived around the King's Row area, have all been taken hostage by Null Sector. So Null Sector, for their part, while they generally sort of agree with what this whole King's Row working with the Omnics thing is supposed to represent, they feel that it is a token gesture. Because the Omnic crisis ended 20 years ago, and so far Britain has, and most of the world, have not followed through on any of these similar promises. So Null Sector, in probably not the smartest move, has moved forward in this very aggressive taking over this entire area and holding every person hostage. Not the best idea. However, the British Prime Minister is, for some reason, of the opinion that he can handle this. Having thus far, apparently this event has been going on for about a week. Thus far, he's done not a whole heck of a lot. Tells Overwatch they're not allowed to operate within British sovereignty because they're a United Nations body, effectively, and by that are not official, like, they're not allowed to deploy military units on British sovereign soil, which totally makes sense, except that it would just be the same thing as a foreign nation offering aid. He apparently just really doesn't want to look weak. So because of this, we have Jack Morrison basically denying calls from Petrus, the new-ish director of Overwatch. He was instituted sometime recently before Uprising, but not very far before, while trying to decide if he's going to send in a small squad anyway. Spoilers, he does. He ends up going with two members of the original strike team, Torb and Reinhardt, and following up with Mercy and Tracer. Tracer having just finished, basically, can she control her powers enough to not die? Okay, good. So, quick run through of where this puts us then, roughly in the Overwatch timeline. And it's pretty close to the fall of Overwatch. There's a very good chance that the events in Uprising led to whatever the split between Reyes and Morrison was that ended in the massive fight that destroyed their entire Swiss HQ, and with Petrus in charge, that puts them in the position to have Petrus enact the Petrus Acts and shut down Overwatch. Part of the reason we know this is because the fall of Overwatch happened very shortly after Reinhardt's retirement. Reinhardt was required to retire from military service at 55. He's 61 currently. 61 minus 7 is 54, so this is his last year of Overwatch duty. On top of that, we know that Mercy is 30, Tracer is 26, which means that she's 19 at this point, which may seem a little bit young to have taken part in an experimental, flight ship for a UN British... So quick explanation for Tracer to make her make sense in the timeline. She's 26 in-game, which means she's 19 at this point, which again, yeah, seems a little bit young. However, the baseline for this is she was in the RAF. RAF actually has positions that you can join at 14. So probably by the time she was 17 or 18, she was a pilot in the RAF. She apparently showed some high-level skill, or maybe it was just the fact that she was young and very proficient and got seconded to the Overwatch initiative to test fly the Slipstream, which was an experimental next-generation teleporting fighter jet. However, on its first test run, something went terribly wrong and the entire thing just stopped existing. Turned out that it wasn't so much teleporting as moving ever so slightly through time. So, when they basically managed to grab onto the Echo that she left behind, Winston made her this rig that gave her some amount of control. She was lost for a couple of months, spent a couple more months not being able to control it all and sort of like flitting around her own timeline, although mercifully in a very short window. Probably, I'm gonna guess, max a year of training later, we come up to Uprising, where she's a cadet. She's gone through a fair amount of training, mostly with like Genji and such, at least it looks like, and this is her first real mission. So she probably had maybe another year or so of being in the spotlight as an Overwatch agent before the fall, and we don't actually know what she did between the fall and now, so that'll be a thing to look into. And for those of you wondering, Torb is 50 in this, so he's still got about 5 years left, and he officially never retired from Overwatch. He was one of those who just Overwatch shut down, so he left it. Though he continued doing some other things. He's got a comic with Bastion that I would highly recommend reading called, Binary, I want to say? A few other things to point out that we learned because of this. One, apparently Overwatch is already under scrutiny after the Cairo incident. We don't know what this is. It was probably more than a month ago, though. It seems as though Director Petrus was brought in specifically because of the Cairo incident. We have no idea what the Cairo incident is. I would bet that it probably has something to do with the Anubis AI, which is the god AI that Farah's security company was looking after in 7 years in the future from now. It does not have to do with either Widowmaker or Ana, though, because Ana still has her eye, so despite that issue looking like it happened in Cairo, and it doesn't have to do with Widowmaker because her assassination of her husband is also shown in this comic panel here. At least that's what I'm assuming this is about, because there aren't that many Overwatch officials that got killed in canon. So that's probably what's going on there. Also, apparently the Japanese government is very unhappy about that whole maybe partially dead man working for Blackwatch took down an entire massive Japanese-based organization, admittedly focused on crime, but probably with legitimate businesses as well, without any input from the Japanese government. So that's why Blackwatch is on suspension, if I'm to put a theory out there. So that's pretty much what we know about the lore that Uprising has brought to us. There's a terrorist cell named Null Sector. They don't seem to be active in current world order, which seems to imply that they may have fallen after this. This is very close to the fall of Overwatch. In fact, Uprising may have directly led to it, because Overwatch stepped on a sovereign nation's toes and probably isn't the best idea, especially a sovereign nation who seconded one of their most talented pilots to it, who was then lost for almost a year. We know that Petrus is now in control of Overwatch, which means that it doesn't seem like he defended Overwatch. He might have named the act after himself. We haven't heard him yet, but not the nicest sounding guy from what everyone else is talking about. And there's one thing I forgot to mention, which is we get a little bit of a look at Blackwatch, which has apparently already been told it can't operate, which is strange because we also see Reyes still operating, and frankly being the more sympathetic party in this case. Like, he is the person voting for, I know that we're not supposed to step on a sovereign nation's toes, but there are thousands of people who are gonna die, so we just gonna let that happen, and confirming that he has agents out in the field who are already trying to stop it. So we're already having some sort of strange disconnect here from the Reyes that was and Reaper. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have not done it yet, go play this. It's a wonderful game mode. It's tons of fun. There's a cool little intro video that I've probably used some clips of already. There's also a really, really good comic, and they did their thing with the Motion Books company, so it's all voice acted, and you just fly through it. So please go check those out. They're all amazing. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and consider checking out some of the videos that are playing around this, and maybe even supporting us on Patreon or any of our other sites, like our website, Facebook, Twitter. They're all down below. Check them out.